What's up, everyone? Welcome back to season two, episode three of the Ear Hustling Podcast. As usual, you got your normal players here. What's up, Prince?
What's going on? Been a while since seeing everybody. Anybody who's keeping track hair's a little bit shorter now,
Yeah,
a
you
little
lost a few
lighter.
inches up top.
Yeah,
I,
that's the. I was actually gonna have them cut the sides and just add it to the top so I could look a little bit taller.
Ooh.
well, how about a little bit down? Well, never mind. That's a whole nother story.
Uh,
We have a special show today that I'm extremely looking forward to. There's a lot
Mhm.
of celebrations here in June, but today we're going to talk about it being Pride Month. So we have
Right.
some very special family and friends that's on the show that we're getting a chance to talk to. We have someone that is the self-appointed first lady of EHP. She gave herself that
Mhm.
title, and she's been on the show. I'm not sure how many times at this point, but Soleil, welcome back.
Hi, I'm glad to be back.
Soleil, how many times have you been on the show?
13.
Yeah, I will
Wow.
believe that. I don't think it's that
No,
many, but I will believe it.
no, it's probably like
MVP,
5 or 7.
MVP.
It's somewhere around there. That sounds about right. Okay, awesome. Well, welcome back. Good seeing you. And let the record stay, Soleil just had a birthday. She turned, what was it, 18?
I'll take it.
Mhm.
All right, sounds good. Well, and we also have, I said family and friends, but I shouldn't say that. We're all family here. Soleil is we go back so far. We're family. But we have other family. We got Pammy and Jamie on. So welcome everyone.
Thank you. We are happy to be on with you all. Thank you.
Jamie is off screen, but we're very happy to have you here. So everyone, when you hear a voice chime in, don't think that one of us is frozen and the audio is in. He's there. So welcome, Jamie.
Hi.
There we go. See, I told you I wasn't lying.
Yeah.
So let's get started. I want to jump in. I want to ask the first question, and then I'm gonna throw it over to Princeton. Um, I'm gonna start out with Soleil here. Soleil, what does pride mean to you?
So I've been asked that numerous times this month, and every time it's something different.
Mm.
Pride is, living your truth, being authentic, being yourself. It's telling your story, and not a watered down, you know, made for TV, comfort story. Like in my case, my story is hurtful. There's pain involved. Fortunately, I have a fairy tale to a part of my story, but not everybody who celebrates Pride has that. So today, it being Pride Day, the anniversary of the Stonewall riots that sort of initiated the gay liberation movement, Pride means something more today. Because if it
Mm.
wasn't for Black trans women who stood up and threw a brick at police, we wouldn't be here right now. So I owe a debt of gratitude to those pioneers. So on a day like this, I can't help but to think about those sacrifices of those who came before me. So um, I've answered that question quite a bit, but it means everything. It's all encompassing, and yet it's still being defined. Um, you know, as a person who at one time attended pride parades as a closeted person, it meant one thing. I was celebrating my friends while hoping and wishing that I could do the same and be authentic, but I had so much to lose. And now, several years later, um, like now it's like, oh my God, I've missed out on so much all these years. Lastly, I'll just say that in terms of pride, um, a day like today or a month like this month makes me realize how much more work that we all need to do to protect those within the community. We've come a long way, but we're so far from the promised land. We're not there yet. Um, the pride parades, the festivals, the balloons, the colors, rainbows are nice, but those um, uh, trans women and men and gay and lesbian and bisexuals who kicked off the movement, it was a riot. And right now we're not causing an uprising. We're celebrating a lot, but we have a long way to go. We need to get back to the riot part. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Mm.
So, before we continue on, and Jamie, I definitely want to hear from you and what have you. But Soleil, real quick, if you could just remind listeners and viewers, of course, a little over a year ago, I want to say we did our first show with you, and it was called "Becoming Soleil: My Transgender Story." If you don't mind, just kind of briefly tell people whatever you feel comfortable. And you was very open and very authentic at that time. And thank you once again for that. We won an award on that show. So congratulations to you. That was all you. If you don't mind, kind of share with the viewers who may not have seen that podcast, just a little bit about your story, whatever you feel comfortable sharing. And Jamie, I would love for you to do the same, whatever you feel comfortable sharing as well.
Yeah, certainly. So, that show lasted about 3 hours. So I'm not going to go that route. But, I think my story resembles a lot of people who identify as trans, a woman of trans experience. But I knew when I was 4 or 5 years old. But my upbringing was such that I didn't feel comfortable to come out. I didn't have the role models that I could look up to. There was a lot of fear, even to a degree in my family. Like one of my family members, just the way that they talk was, in terms of, LGBT people, it was really bad. So I lived my life as best as I could as a cisgender male. I got married. I, had a nice job. We moved out to Vegas. Life was okay. I was content, but there was just in me a part of me that was saying, this isn't the real you. And to back up, I hid myself for many years. My wife never knew. My friends, like James, we've been friends for over 20 years. He never knew. And I really was living a secret life. And it was becoming exhausting, especially out here in Las Vegas, where it's a really small town. And, me going out with friends or to a restaurant or grocery shopping or a movie theater, it's amazing that I never bumped into my ex-wife or her sorority sisters or friends or whoever. But anyway, I decided to tell her, not knowing what the end was going to be, understanding that losing my wife, losing my home, potentially losing my job, losing friends and family. I knew that was a real possibility, and I did it. And obviously, she divorced me. There's some family members I don't talk to today. There's friends that I don't talk to today. My job has been very supportive. But it's been a process since that coming out. Things do get better. If there's anybody watching who is wondering if they should or shouldn't, it does get better. Like today, I talked to one of my brothers, and he's going to be in my wedding. I'm getting married again. So there is a fairy tale, but it was a lot of hard work. There was moments of despair, moments of feeling like giving up. My ex-wife had she outed me to a lot of people before I was ready. Even people from my high school that I hadn't seen in almost 30 years. And so, there was moments where I really felt like that I couldn't live anymore, right? But I pushed through, and this last year has been incredible, professionally, personally, getting married and some of the individual accolades that has happened in my life that I don't think would have happened had I tried to continue to be like James. Um, what I am now is just fabulous. It's amazing. Um, I think people who know me from then to now can tell that there's a difference in me just because I'm being true and authentic. So, yeah, go back, listen to that episode. It's really only about 2 hours, but I get into more detail. But yeah, I think a lot of us share a very similar story for those who are trans women of trans experience.
Thank you, Soleil, for sharing that. Shay, I know you're listening. If you have an opportunity to grab that episode number for me and post it, that'd be amazing. If you could do that, that would be great. If not, we definitely will make sure to post the episode so you can go back and listen to Soleil's story. It was amazing. I remember it was a lengthy show, but it was great. I remember several times we were texting behind the scenes like, "Hey, you want to do a part two?" Soleil was like, "No, let's keep going." All of us were sitting there having to pee like racehorses, but we want to keep moving through. So that was amazing. So thank you. Jamie, over to you. What does pride mean to you?
Um, I think that pride means to live to your fullest. I think it means to be who you are and live your life with as much pride as you can. There is a lot of backlash that comes with that. A lot of people that aren't going to support you. A lot of people who aren't going to see like why you are the way you are. A lot of people that are going to think it's a decision, but I feel like if you're true to yourself, then it's going to be worth
That's
That's a great
amazing.
answer. And I just want
Yeah.
to
Go ahead, Prince.
I just want to ask to let the viewers know. Can you just let everyone know how old you are, Jamie?
it. I'm 15.
15.
15.
Wow. Wow. Really, really appreciate you being on and just giving your input. And I know I just wanted to ask, so as far as the Pride Month, continuing on with that, that was a great answer. Is Pride Month something that's talked about in school? Like, is the history gone over? What do you guys learn about Pride Month in school?
Nothing.
Mm.
Really?
We got out of school. We got out of school the 16th of June. So halfway
Mhm.
through Pride Month, it was never mentioned.
Mm.
Hmm.
Wow, wow. Is this something that you feel should change? Is this something you feel should be touched on?
I feel like it should. I feel like a lot of other subjects where people are discriminated against and different massacres and like different real life events that happen are touched on all the time. And I feel
Mhm.
like it's really the same thing going on with the LGBTQ community as a whole, and it never gets talked about. Or if it does, it's not talked about nearly as much as it should.
I think that's part of the reason, and I would love to hear both of your opinions on this statement. I think that's one of the problems, though, because people are afraid of the unknown, right? And if you don't
Mhm.
understand something, now you're afraid of it. It's different, so it's taboo. I think if more conversations would be had about so many different things, it would make things easier, right? What are your thoughts on that, Jamie? Let's start with you, and then Slay will bump over to you.
Um, yeah, I do feel like it should be touched on. I feel like it would actually help a lot of people because I know there's people in a position where I was where like you don't know if you want to come out because all the people around you are one way and you're like not sure
Mm.
or like you're thinking, is it okay for me to be this way? Like, am I normal? Am I weird? Like, I feel like it should be talked about.
Okay, Soleil.
Yeah, before I guess both your question and Prince's question sort of blend together. So I don't know where Jamie is, but here in Nevada, where I am, I'm fortunate enough to be a part of a nonprofit organization where I'm one of the directors there, where we actually go into the schools so we can talk about gender, talk about sexuality, talk about being an ally, talking about coming out. So, I mean, we still have a long way to go. My program called the Pride Tree, we're in 4 schools now. Next school year will be in about 6. So we have a long way to go, but there are programming, um, at least through nonprofit avenues, that can go into the schools um, and provide that education to kids. And we're also putting on a camp this summer for those kids. As far as the other question, I mean, you can't ignore it, right? So there's black people and white people and natives, and there's gay and lesbian, trans, there's disabled people, and those experiencing homelessness and everything. You can't ignore it. So why try not to why prevent it in schools? Why eliminate books? What's going to happen, one thing I always say about me is, if I didn't transition, I would probably be dead right now. Just to be blunt. This is the part of Pride that's not rainbows, that's not balloons, that's not the parade or the festivals. This is real life. So, many trans people taking hormones is what's saving their life right now, and that's real. So we need these conversations in the classrooms, because if they're not getting it, they're going to get it outside the classroom. I have friends who, years ago transitioned, but because they couldn't get access to legal hormones, they got access to black market hormones, and bad things happen because of that. So we need to talk about it, not just in schools, but like at the workplace. There needs to be some understanding and sensitivity, and understanding what we're all going through.
All right. Pam, I know you had a comment, but before we get to that, Soleil Shay asks, is this program in other states, Pride Tree?
No, not yet. We're just about a year and a half old. So, but I mean, that's something that we could think about, but we're very young as it is. But that would be down the road. But we could probably, if you have contacts within the school system, I think she probably does. We could probably connect and at least sort of get you started on being like an affiliate, or creating your own program to get into the schools.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Soleil. So, Pamela, you had a comment you wanted to make.
That's great.
Oh, me? Did I have a comment?
Yep. Oh no, I'm sorry. That you didn't type that. That was Soleil. I need to upgrade my glasses.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. All right. Was that what you wanted to
You
say,
see it
Soleil?
straight over there?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Soleil, was that what you wanted to say, or was there something else you wanted to add?
Yeah, that's what I
Okay,
wanted to say.
got you. Alrighty, moving right along. So, Jamie, I have a question for you, and I would love to hear your answer also on this one, Soleil. Besides yourself, obviously, you both knew yourself that what you were feeling inside. So, Jamie, who was the first person that you came out to?
Oh, who was it? The first the first person I came out to was, I think, my mother.
Okay. And once again, whatever you feel comfortable talking about, what was that like? And Pamela, I would love to hear from you as well. What was that like for you?
Um, it was kind of scary for me because I still wasn't fully like I still wasn't like fully to terms with who I was, but like I kind of knew who I was, and I knew that I had to say something. So it was in sixth grade, and I came home from school, and I went in her room, and I was like, I have to tell you something. And then she's like, okay. So I sat her down, and I was being super serious, and I told her, and she was like, I love you regardless, and this and that. She was like, um, for the most part, I already knew, but I'm glad that you told.
Oh,
Hmm.
that's my baby.
So Pamela,
That's great.
what from your perspective, what don't get all emotional and stuff. Uh from your perspective, what was that conversation like? When did you know?
Uh, so with my sunshine, okay, as I'm learning that it's not so black and well, it's not so black and white. But for Jamie, I've known that's my baby. I've known since he was maybe really, and it's not obviously a sexual thing. That's it's more so who, which feminine or masculine energy does your child identify with, and I knew that my little black boy identified more with feminine energy. So when he was about, by the time a child is like 5 or 6, whether boy or girl, they say, "Oh, that's my boyfriend," or "I like him," or "I like her." I never really got that with Jamie. So by the time he was like 7, about 6 or 7, there was no like school crushes, or if he saw somebody, let's say a girl's hair, he would say, "Oh, I like her hair," or "Her hair is pretty," but it was never like a I like this girl. So I've always like known, but I knew that, I just waited for him to feel comfortable enough to talk to me. So what I did do by the time he was like 8, 9, I just always reiterated. I said, "James, you know that I love you very much. And I got your back. I'm your number one fan. There's nothing that you can tell me that's going to have me not love you." So I just almost wanted to prepare him, because I already knew, but I knew that it was still his journey for him to tell me.
Gotcha.
Mm.
Gotcha.
Oh,
Soleil,
yeah.
who was the first person you came out to?
Yeah, first I want to comment on that. A few years ago, my mom passed away years ago. And one of the things I always struggled with was, did she know? And a friend of mine told me, like, she's a mother, a young mother of like 2 or 3 kids, and she said a mother knows her kids. So, this just speaks to Miss
Mm.
Pamela. She knew, right? And I remember a time with my mom, um, where she found my I was hoarding her clothes and her makeup and her jewelry and her shoes and things like that, and she never said anything to me about it, but she just kindly put it back in her room and whatever. But like, my mom probably knew as well. So, Pamela, you're awesome for that. My first story of telling somebody was actually an adult film actor. um, I was in. So I had a couple friends that I would show them pictures of like my makeup. I would do my makeup and send them pictures. So they thought I was just doing drag. Um, and so one of these girls and we went to Denver, Colorado. We were going to spend the entire weekend there. We were going to go shopping, play with makeup, go to drag shows, go out to eat, just live it up. 2 girls that entire weekend. And so I bumped into a young lady, a adult actress that I knew for years, and she knew me the old way, right? And now she was seeing me for the first time in my element, and she was like, "So what's going on here? What's this all about?" And that was the first time like I uttered the word "I'm transgender." I never did it publicly, and my friend was right there. She overheard it, and so my adult actress friend was excited and hugged me and kissed me. And then after that, my friend and my other friend that I originally went to Denver with, we spoke for 3 or 4 hours. Um, and it was such a freeing moment, but it was a sad moment because this was the part of I was living a
Mm,
secret life. I was still married at the time. And
mm,
me saying that, sort of saying that I was transgender, made me realize that I have to tell her, tell my now
Mm.
ex-wife. And so it was happy, it was freeing, it was liberating, but it was also like a part of me was about to die, right?
mm.
But yeah, that's the first person that I told. Then after that, it was still that way for about 8 months. 8 months before I told anybody else. So yeah.
Gotcha.
Did you
And Soleil
guys
goes
did
into
you guys
deeper.
feel like
One quick second, Prince. I'm sorry. Soleil, that's a great story. You shared that on the previous episode, season 1, episode 29. You can find that on our Facebook page, Ear Hustling Podcast, as well as wherever you download your favorite podcast. Sorry, Prince. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. That was the good plug for that episode.
I am fine.
No, but I was just gonna ask, as far as that goes, did you guys feel like that was almost a weight off your shoulders once you guys came out? Did it was it easier after that?
For me, no. Like I said, it was almost like taking one weight off and putting another weight on. So now I
Mm,
have to deal with the reality and deal with my ex. And I wasn't sure that I even wanted to transition. Like I know that I've been Soleil all my life, but
mm,
there's work, there's family. Like you have to sort of count the cost, to
Yeah.
use a phrase that James is very aware of.
Yeah.
You have to count the costs of all of that. And so I did that. The weight never, it probably took maybe not until like the pandemic. So at that point, I'm a couple years in. Maybe it was during the
Mm.
pandemic that things just, I felt like there was no pressure, and there's still like little things. Like last week, my
Mm.
fiance and I, we went to Tennessee, which isn't the most friendly place, and Missouri.
mm,
And so there was a little stress and pressure there. But like now, I live my life, I go out, I do everything that everybody else does, and generally without any fear or concerns. People who know. People who still are in my life, that's great. If you're not, that's great. I'm not hurt or pressed by it anymore. So it took a while for me, but only because there was that added layer of, now I have to deal with my wife and deal with other family and friends and work, and take those steps. I
Jamie, how
wish
about you?
I wish I had the courage that Jamie had, and was able to come out when I was their age, because you know that's awesome.
Yeah.
well, thank you so much. I just want to say that you also, like I said, everything that you went through, how you said it's like, I thought was very deep and poignant. And you said it's almost like taking off one weight to put on another. But I appreciate you and your journey, because what even you went through, we're in a space right now where it's not, you said it's not where it should be or where you want it, but it's going, it's getting better, but it's still not enough. So thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
It almost sounds like when you build up the courage to come out, that as Soleil said, you're taking one weight off, put on the other, and the other weight you're putting on is now the journey. Now it's said. Now
Yeah.
it's reality for everyone, whether they knew or not. Now you have to take steps. Right now it's out there. Now what's next? So that's kind of what I picture. At being. So I definitely get the metaphor of taking a weight off and putting another on, Soleil. So thanks for that image. Jamie, what
Yeah.
about you? What was did it get easier for you, or what was it like for you after you talked to your mom?
No, it wasn't really easier. I think it's because it's like
Mm.
something I always knew, like in the back of my head. I just I just didn't come to terms with it until I told her. but I always knew, so it wasn't like a freeing feeling or like something that was like, super important.
Got it. Okay. Some things are obvious, right? And thank you both for sharing that. Some things are obvious obstacles. What are some obstacles that you both encounter being a part of the LGBTQ community? Let's start with you, Jamie.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Sound like you breaking stuff over there. I said some things are obvious and you both have touched on, but what are some obstacles that you experience being a part of the LGBTQ plus community?
Um, some places that I go to aren't the most welcoming. Um,
Mm.
it's not like a hate crime type of thing. It's like a weird look
Mm.
type of thing. It's pretty uncomfortable. But yeah, another thing I face is like people just asking me like strange questions like why do you choose to be this way or like do you like do you want to become trans because me being a gay male I'm very comfortable with being a boy and I feel as if like I'm telling someone that yeah I'm a boy and I feel like that question is kind of unnecessary and I feel like it's a bit backhanded to like the community as a whole.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have
Oh, go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, yes.
I have a question to expound on somebody saying something about my baby looking. What do you mean by? Can you tell us a little bit more about? You said someone asked you about the way you look. What are they? What are they? What are they saying about the way you look? Like, what are they commenting on?
Because sometimes I look more feminine.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
And you be saying like, okay, all this is kind of new to me. You saying like you go to like a mall? Like, where are you going? Where they're saying something?
No,
Where are you? Like out like in a.
no, like sometimes it'll just be like a friend.
Oh, oh wow.
I couldn't hear that. Sometimes where, Jamie?
Sometimes it'll just be like a friend or something, and it's like
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like a weird feeling. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Hmm. I didn't know that.
You don't know everything.
Okay.
Soleil?
Yeah, I echo the same thoughts. I just mentioned we made a trip to Tennessee. That's where my fiance's family is. We went down there. It was the 10th anniversary of her mom's passing. So we wanted to go and pay our respects, but it was in a sundown town in Missouri. Um,
Mm.
and like a few weeks ago, before we booked the trip, I remember seeing something on TikTok. I saw a video of a woman, following a trans person into the bathroom in Tennessee. And so it really freaked me out. I've had that moment to some degree here in even Las Vegas. Um, but like what I saw on that TikTok was just horrific and it was scary.
Mm.
And so that put a fear in me just about taking the trip. And eventually we did. We got to Missouri. I was misgendered there. Um, and my fiance and I, we kind of looked at each other and laughed and made a joke like, I'm not going to be offended by somebody making $11 an hour at a
Mm.
Burger King. But the truth is, like, that stuff hurts.
Yeah.
Um, other struggles from a trans perspective is the struggle of passing privilege. There's some trans women that if I showed you pictures, you would never know that they were trans. And then there's somebody like me who was a nose tackle in high school, in college, right? 6 feet tall. So And to be fair, I will say this: some of my friends over this last year didn't know I was trans, so that was very flattering. But like in general, trans people are concerned about just having that passing privilege. If you can
Mm,
pass, you could go to the bathroom, and nobody's going to care. Nobody's
Hmm.
going. Bathroom is an issue. Healthcare is an issue. Um, Getting like your name changed, birth certificate, things like that. I'm originally from Michigan.
Hmm.
Up until last year, if you wanted to change your gender in your birth certificate in Michigan, you had to have the surgery. Not all trans people want the surgery, um, and it's a very expensive surgery. But last year they passed a law that allows you to get your gender changed without that. But there's still some states that are very much antiquated in that way. So that's a struggle. Getting your driver's license updated, changing credit cards, things like that. Some of us, I mean, I got my things changed, but some of my friends, you know, it's tough going into a restaurant, paying with a credit card. You may go by one name, but your credit card says something different.
mm,
You
Hmm.
know, that's hurtful. And for
wow.
years, I had to deal with that until I got all my stuff in order. So those are just some of the challenges that we go through. Not to mention violence. Not to mention the stares and looks. Um, yeah, all those things.
Wow. I think just from listening to that, I think it shows that we have a we've come a long way, but we still have a long way, a very long way to go. And along those lines, I wanted to ask both of you guys in regards to communities. I feel, in particular, I feel pretty safe in saying that the Black community has taken a little bit longer to become as accepting as other communities, as well as to follow up with that, I wanted to ask, much support do you guys feel like you're getting from the Black community?
Um, I feel as if that I get a good amount of support. Um, a lot of my family supports me. I have a lot of friends that support me, but I do think that the Black community as a whole is very unaccepting. And I never really understood that because when I sat back and thought about it, Black people were once discriminated against. Slavery.
Mm,
So why would you discriminate someone if you know how it feels to be discriminated
Mm,
that's
against?
that's very
It's
true.
something that never made sense to me.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, Jamie. It doesn't make sense. You would think that would make us more accepting, if anything.
Right.
How about you, Soleil?
That was very powerful. I look up to you, Jamie. That was very profound and powerful. Thank you. Yeah, I think it will differ in each individual person. There's some in my family that my brother that I talked to today took him years to really come around. And now he calls me sister. But there's a brother that actually lives here in Las Vegas who I don't talk to anymore. There's another brother back in Detroit I don't talk to anymore. Um, my sister passed away a year ago, and my brother had my ex-wife tell me instead of calling me. So I feel like that in the Black community in general, we're we have so much further to go than like some of my Caucasian counterparts. Most of the trans people
Yeah.
who get murdered are murdered by Black men. There's a lot of Black men who struggle with their own sexuality and they're attracted to trans females, but they don't want to acknowledge it. And if they hook up with one, then they want to take to violence to, whatever. We still see a lot of that. There's comedians like Dave Chappelle who, you know, wants to lift up Black people, but not realizing the intersectionality that there's LGBT people in the Black community. So, when you put
Yeah,
down Black,
yeah,
when you put down Black trans women or make jokes about us or gay people or whatever, you're putting down Black people,
Mhm.
the very group of people that you're trying to lift up.
Mm.
Um, so we still have a long way to go.
no, yeah, I agree. It's certainly, I feel a lot of people who, like Dave Chappelle, like you had mentioned, don't realize sometimes the impact that they can have, especially someone on the level of that pedigree. So I certainly agree with what you said. And continuing along these lines of community um, and acceptance as far as it goes, I wanted to know a community as well. I'm not sure as far as where either of your guys' religion plays, but have you guys had any problems when it comes to church? Have people not been as accepting in the church community with you guys?
Well, fortunately, the I go to a church here that is affirming. The denomination itself is called Metropolitan Community Church. It's worldwide. It was founded by a gay man. My pastor here in Las Vegas, he's gay, has a husband. They have 3 kids. One of them is a trans boy. Um,
Mm.
the associate pastor, he's gay. So, fortunate for me, I do have that community. The majority of the congregation falls somewhere within the LGBT community. Um, but yeah, in general, some of other mainline churches do not agree um, uh, with me and try to use the same Bible scriptures. And I try not to get into arguments over it because it's
Yeah,
pointless. But
yeah,
I'm secure with my
Mhm.
faith and
We
where I am. I always say Jesus came to change hearts, not clothes. So I'm secure in my faith and my walk with Him, and so I'm fine with it.
After we get Jamie's response, we have a someone special that has a message for someone on the panel. But let's get Jamie's response and then get to our special message.
In terms of church, there's never our church family is very small and also very supportive. So I've never had a problem when it came to church. Um,
mhm.
I am very thankful for them for being so um
supportive.
yeah, supportive, being so supportive of me in my journey. Yeah.
Hmm. So
That's great
I'm
to hear. That's
just
great.
just to expound on what Jamie said. So as you know, James in Princeton, and you know too, Soleil, or you're going to learn. So we attend a non-denominational church in Ferndale, Michigan, and we have a very small church home, and the grace, I'm not gonna get into it, but the what we learn is that who you are, who you are in Christ has nothing to do with color, religion. You know, you just because you're in Christ doesn't mean that saying that only Jesus is accepting Christians. No, if you're Buddhist, you're in
Mhm.
Christ. So the point is, we have a very I'm not gonna say liberal view of religion, but anyway, so I thank God for Grace Gospel and our church family community, because they're very accepting.
Awesome. All right, well,
That's
I'm
great.
gonna bring on a special guest that has a special message. So hang on, you all.
All right.
Leah, welcome.
Hi, thank you for inviting me to be on here.
You're quite welcome. So I think you have a special message for a special someone on the panel.
Yes, I just want to say how proud I am of Soleil and how much I love her. And I'm so happy that she found her true self, and through finding that true self, eventually found me. So it worked out very well for me. And That's it. Yeah, I'm not really a podcaster, but you asked me to come on, so here I am.
Well, Leah, let me say, I've known, as you heard, Soleil for many years, and my opinion is, Soleil has always been what I viewed as a pretty positive, happy person, but the person that she became after she became Soleil is totally different. And she is such a happier person, in my opinion, and even happier than before. I think the only thing that's gonna make her happier now, besides me and you, Leah, is the Lions winning the Super Bowl. But that's a whole nother podcast. But no, she's definitely a much happier
That won't
person.
happen. That won't happen.
Thank you, Princeton. We're not about negativity, okay?
You make it happen.
But Leah, thank you so much for joining and sharing a special message for Soleil.
Thanks for having me. Y'all are all so inspiring.
Love you, babe.
Love you.
Aw,
Thank you.
you're cute.
All right, Prince, go ahead. What you got next?
I had a question actually for you, Pammy. What have you faced any challenges having a son in the LGBTQ community, and what advice would you give a parent whose child has recently come out to them?
So with Jamie being a gay black boy and being, like I said, possessing more feminine energy, it was always so clear to me, and it was easy for me to accept my sunshine as he was because it was very obvious. But I'm gonna give just one situation. Actually last April, Jamie he befriended this boy named Cameron. Long story short, after they befriended one another, it didn't quite work out. However, so I feel as if for me it's a little bit easier for me to not easier, but I'm starting to think about what about the little black gay boys who are more masculine. So I think for a lot of families they may not understand or may not even know that their son is homosexual. So I just want parents to come from a place of love. I mean, overall, we want our kids, or you should want your kids to be happy. That's it. We want happy, thriving kids. What does that look like? Does that look like a little girl like a little boy? Okay. Little boy like a little boy? Okay. A little girl like a little girl? Okay. So I just think right now, for the in the black community, especially here in the community, I want people or who are parents to really look at your children and and I know, like I said, since it may be harder if you're a child, like you don't know because they don't possess the so-called, what does that mean? Qualities of. I just think that we need to
Yeah.
almost get out of our own head of what people will say and of what the family would say of what that takes that's a journey, but I just pray that people will be strong, and know that overall you have one child, two children, three children, whatever it takes for you to be um, a, a safe place for your child. That means you may not find out that they're gay or lesbian until they're 18. Love them anyway. You might not find out that they're gay or lesbian until they're 28. Love them anyway. You may not find out until they're 38 or 50. However, whenever they decide to come out, love them anyway. Life is too short to not love your children through whatever they're going through. Because just as hard it is for you, imagine what they're going through, and be a support to them.
Prince, do you have a follow up to that? If not, I have a
That's a
perfect
great answer.
segue to a question I have.
You can go ahead, sir. That was a great
Okay.
answer.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. What I really love about the panel here today is we have three different perspectives. We have Soleil, who during her journey,
Mhm.
she mentioned, she doesn't know if her mom knew, right? So and that weighs on her. We have Jamie, who said, you know what, hey, I'm going to tell my mom, and we're going to have this conversation. And we have Pamela, who says, you know what, I had the conversation, I kind of knew. So I love the different perspectives we have. So what I would like to know is from Pammy, the question I have for you is if you could do it all over again, it sounds like you started laying the foundation to allow Jamie to feel comfortable to come to you and have the conversation. Would you have initiated the conversation at some point if you could do it all over again? Question for you, Soleil, do you think that would be a good idea for a parent to initiate the conversation opposed to waiting? And Jamie, what is your thoughts on that? Would you have wanted your mom to initiate the conversation to make that a little less stressful in you having to sit her down?
Mm.
So I'm just curious on the different perspectives on this. Whoever wants to jump in first.
So are you? So the question for me is: are you saying that if I could do it over, would I have still laid down that foundation for
No,
him to?
would you have just? I don't think you. I think laying the foundation. I think you probably consent with that. But would you have initiated the conversation? Would you have nudged them along to have that conversation sooner?
Oh, not at all. Because like I said, even though it was obvious to me, and also I'm going to say this, and because he's not here, but I do want to say, and I give shout outs, and I will always love Jamie's father because for one thing, like I said, homosexuality in the Black community, like I said, is taboo. We don't want to talk about it. We want to take it to Jesus. We don't. It's not really addressed. I will say this: I will love my ex-husband forever because Jamie recently felt comfortable enough to talk to his father. And he's not the typical Black dad that was like, put him in a sport, put him in football. He was very said, that's my boy. That's my boy. I love him. So that to me, just I would love him forever for loving our son. But no, what I wouldn't just I would still do what I did in terms of just lay the foundation, just make sure he knew that he was in a safe place, in a safe space, but not be like, Jamie, I know something you might not know yet. So I just wanted to wait until he was ready.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jamie or Soleil?
I feel like that's the right decision. I feel like if she came to me and came at me first, I would feel forced to talk about it. And it was hard to put her down and having that conversation. But I still did it on my own terms and when I was comfortable doing so.
Awesome. Okay. Soleil?
Yeah, I think, I'm not a parent, so I can't really speak from that perspective. I'm just, I guess, assuming here, but, I think parents know their kids. And, if you have that relationship with your child that you can go to them, great. If you don't and want to wait, that's great too. In my relationship with my mother, I love her dearly. I think she's the greatest in the world. But we didn't really have that. We didn't talk about those things, right? So I think when she saw that I was hoarding her stuff and some other things, that probably would have led her to believe that I was trans. Had she came to me and talked to me, maybe that would have given me the freedom to be myself at that time. And who knows what my life would be like. I don't like to live thinking that way because now things are great. I might not know Leah had I started transitioning at 14, 15 years old. So everything happens for a reason. My mom chose to not say anything. I thought, honestly, she was going to tell my brothers. She didn't. And so she did that. She knew me. I mean, I was at the time maybe scared or fearful of what life would be like in the 90s and with my brother. And I don't want to paint him out to be a bad person or whatever. It's just from those boys that grew up in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and they use certain words and things regarding LGBT people. That's just how he was. So, a lot of people are that way. But anyway, everything happened for a reason. It all worked out in the end. So I have no complaints about it. But for any parents watching or listening, your kids. And so you should make your decisions based on that relationship you have with them.
Awesome.
But, mhm.
Princeton, we are up against the hour in a couple minutes. What other questions do you
We
have before we?
we are, and this has been a great episode so far. So I'll jump right into one of my last questions I have for you guys. Do you guys feel that being gay or lesbian or trans, do you guys feel that this is something that you are in general born with, or do you feel like this is something that develops over time? And this is for both of you guys, Soleil and Jamie.
Well, I think, in my case, I just am. So it's not a decision. I've said before on this show, who decides to, you know, deal with discrimination and violence and all these things for what? Like, why would I do?
Oh, she free.
Oh, Soleil is
Oh,
frozen.
there we go.
Oh, okay. She cutting out for.
All right,
There?
let's move over to Jamie. I'm sure Soleil's connection will come back in.
Yeah.
Um, no, I don't think it's a choice. I don't like Soleil was saying before she got cut out. No one is gonna choose to be discriminated against. No one's gonna choose to for people for you. No one's gonna choose to sit in a room and have people look at you weird. No one's gonna choose to do any of that.
Yeah.
And I feel like if it was a choice, then I don't think the LGBTQ would even be a thing. Because if it were
Mm.
to be a choice, I feel like everyone would choose to be normal. No one would want to choose to be different.
Mm.
So, me personally, I don't think it's a choice at all.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. The internet probably didn't come back for Soleil. I see.
Nope, Soleil's gone. She faded off, so she may come back. Did you have any other questions,
Okay.
Prince, in closing?
Oh, you can go ahead, sir.
Oh no, I was just gonna close us out. So, all right, well,
Oh, well, before we go,
you had your chance. You said go ahead.
don't cut me off. Well, I will ask one last question then. This kind of goes back to the first question a little bit as far as representation goes. Jamie, do you feel like there's enough representation for the LGBT community in media?
No, I feel like it's talked about. People are coming out, and I feel like it's being more accepted. But I also feel like no one really talks about it. Like during Pride Month, all these brands, all these brands, all these brands come together, and they're so pro LGBTQ and LGBTQ collections and rainbows and whatever. And then after the month is over, it's not talked about till next year at
Yeah.
all. Like I said, it's not talked about in schools. It is talked about in the media, but very slightly. There are LGBTQ members being hate crime and killed every day, and it
Mhm.
doesn't get talked about as much as it should at all.
Yeah.
I can definitely agree with that. I'm gonna jump in before Soleil responds and Prince Minnie to re-ask the question. But
Yeah.
Soleil shares stories on social media where transgender men and women are beaten and sometimes murdered. And I don't hear those stories on the media. I don't hear that. I'm not sure where Soleil gets the stories from, but that to Jamie's point, really don't hear that very often. So I definitely can attest to that. But if you can re-ask your question, Prince, for Soleil.
Yes, and my question, Soleil, glad to have you back. But my question was just, how do you feel as far as the representation goes for the LGBTQ community in media? Do you feel it's enough? Do you feel that we can improve on it?
Yeah, totally need to improve on it. For many of us, we for years the portrayal, specifically to trans women, um, the portrayal was prostitutes,
Mm-hmm.
junkies, homeless, that kind of thing. And shows like Pose, which recently ended like a year ago, but it showed that journey from, there's a young lady who, yeah, she was a prostitute, but she was able to find love. There was another young lady who's trans and was an entrepreneur. So I have both in my life as friends. I have people who are working the streets, yes, but there's many more who have, great jobs or just, own their own businesses, or some are in politics now, and doing other things beyond the sensational um, portrayal of trans people. We're seeing LGBT people get elected around the country, which is great. Still got a ways to go. There's trans people leading companies. So all that's great, but I came in, I overheard James talking about in the news. I subscribe to different LGBT newsletters and things like that. HRC, they send out that information about the young people who are getting killed just simply for being LGBT. So I wish mainstream media would talk about it more, but it's again at the beginning of the show we talked about sort of ignoring all of these things. You don't know what you don't know. If you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it because the media isn't gonna talk about it. But it's out there, and your LGBT friends and family, they have legitimate concerns with what's going on out there.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, on behalf of Princeton and the Ear Hustling Podcast, I definitely want to take time to thank Jamie, Pamela, and Soleil. Oh, yes, Soleil.
Real quick, you asked us the question, but what does pride mean to you?
Oh, Soleil.
Mm. Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm not prepared for an answer for that. But off the top of my head, when you ask that question, the first thing that comes to my mind is is and that's a very good question. What comes to my mind is it's an opportunity to learn. I
Mm.
can't imagine something I've shared with you before, Soleil, season 1, episode 29, becoming Soleil, um, is and Jamie alluded to this as well. I can't imagine living a life that is not my real life. It's not really who
Mm.
I am. So pride gives an opportunity for, in my mind, gives an opportunity for people who can come out and share their truth, share their real self. I definitely put more thought to it, but off the top of my head, that's the first thing that comes to mind when I think about pride. Prince, I bought you some more
I
extra
think for
time so you should
me,
come Goodwill.
well, I think for me, I just take pride as I feel like it's called Pride Month for that definition, pride, taking pride in who you are. So I think it means just being yourself, kind of what you guys have touched on the entire show. It's just you don't not. It's a month that we can have awareness for of not trying to be someone else, be accepting of who you really are. So that's the pride part of it for me, and that's what it is to me. And I feel like Pride Month, I kind of think of like when I think of Black History Month, it should be. That's why I was asking about, is this taught in schools? I feel like it should be very
Mm.
educational. This is a time for, I feel like, not just members of the LGBTQ community to learn about pride, but everyone. I feel like this is something that when you think of Pride Month, yes, you think of it as a thing, but I feel like it's not really taught. It's not really, unless you seek it out. But with Black History Month, you don't have to seek it out to learn about it. It's February, and
Mm.
it's just taught. It's just the media talks about it, and I don't feel like enough of that coverage is has been displayed yet. I think it's growing, but I don't think we're there yet. So that's it for me.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Just to touch on something really quick. I'm sorry, I could probably keep talking for another hour. Episode it's season 1, episode 29. That conversation went on for 2 to 3 hours. Sorry, I keep bringing that up, but anyway, you know, But here's the thing. Of course, another conversation we can have, and something people say. Princeton, you brought up Black History Month. We often talk about it. It being the shortest month, right? Of the year. Pride Month, we can say. Yeah, I'll come back to you, Pammy. Pride Month, we can say if we're going to talk about. Go ahead, Pammy.
2% charge, and I think my phone is, even though it's charging, it's not. Yeah, it's getting ready to go out.
Gotcha. All right.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you so much for having us
Thank you.
on.
Yep. Thanks,
Thank
Pammy.
you.
Thanks, Jamie.
It's so nice to. Congratulations, Soleil. Thank you, Princeton. Thank you, James. We appreciate you
No
and your
problem.
lovely
Thank
wife.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As far as Pride Month, with it being in June, school gets out, in June or May for others. So I'm not sure that we should have a special hear what I'm saying here, a special curriculum during that month, during Pride Month, during Black History Month. It should just be part of our curriculum, period. It shouldn't just be limited to certain months of the year, because in that case, Pride Month will not get the time it deserves just by going through it for, in schools here in Georgia, they get out in May, the Friday before Memorial Day. So you would never talk about it if you wait for Pride Month. So I agree, it definitely should be in the education system, but it doesn't have to be designated in the month that we're observing.
True. Very true.
Awesome. All right. Well, I was going to do this before, but thanks for everyone that joined. Soleil, once again, for joining the show. I'm sure we're going to have another topic very soon that we're going to, be calling you, be like, hey, Soleil, next Tuesday, what you doing? It's always a pleasure. Pamela and Jamie has left, but thank you both for joining the show. Very educational. Definitely learned something new from this show, and just learn additional things, and just to hear you all reiterate some things that have been said before. But it has been from our mouths to your ears. Thank you for tuning into the Ear Hustling Podcast.